Morning.
And you can communicate with us, share your thoughts, comments, and observations on these stories and details. Share through WhatsApp and Twitter.
WhatsApp number is 0809 444 That's 0809 444 On Twitter, we're at Smooth981FM. Please use the hashtag FreshlyPressed981. We're also streaming live on YouTube, so please watch us and also leave your comments through the live chat option.
Thank you. Let's start with this first story, and this one is for you, Devoe. As soldiers, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, has come out to lament some officers and men's insufficiency or insufficient commitments to fighting insurgency. He said that is affecting largely the success of the counterinsurgency operations in the country. When I read the story, my first thought was really to ask or find out how the military is beefing up their the entitlements, their pay, the sufficient emoluments that each soldier is entitled to. Shouldn't that be? Would that be considered in this conversation, or what other factors would you think is influencing their apathy to fighting corruption?
It's a heavy headline. However, I'd like to just start with the premise for that. It was reported that recently there were 4 Boko Haram attacks in less than 1 week. Okay, now they attacked 4 army bases. That was in Borno State. That was Moba, Damask, Monguno, and Gajiram areas, of which they stole about during the attacks about 20 million worth of ammunition. Okay, the casualty count is yet unknown, but in one case, the commanding officer of the 158th battalion was killed. Now,
including an undisclosed number of soldiers.
Yes, including an undisclosed number of soldiers. Now, this was also tallied by several herdsmen attacks in Kaduna, Taraba, and Plateau, where about 14 were killed as recorded, including a soldier. So we're back to that situation of rampant and sporadic insurgency attacks across board. And I mean, if left to me and those who were really concerned about Nigerian situation, I would term the herdsmen attacks as also terrorist attacks, because they do end up slaying our people innocently.
They should fall within the same category.
Yes, should fall within the same category. I don't know why to this point there's still a distinction. Having said that, this obviously has not left the security forces sleeping. And during a leadership workshop recently, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, was speaking to some mid-level officers so that we understand the scenario he was making this statement. He did say that the rising terrorist attacks, which is an acknowledgement, was due to insufficient commitment to a common national and insufficient commitment to a common national and military cause by those on the front lines. Now, this is serious and very weighty, especially to those who are on the front lines. And we know those who are on the front lines carry the direct responsibility. And for him to make this statement, it's a heavy source of concern. Now, he was saying that they have had proven cases of soldiers that were unwilling to carry out assignments given to them, adding that this leaves gray areas and also areas of weak links, and saying that if they were not ready to serve, they should go, that the army would no longer tolerate them.
Devoe, doesn't that worry you? Because one would have hoped to hear him speak from a place of more optimism and even assurance, and have some level of assurance ingrained in his words that he expressed. Because as a chief commanding officer or chief of army staff of the military, you'd expect for him to speak in a more reassuring tone to the civilians, to let them know that, the officers under my command are actually going to work, hand in glove to ensure that this thing is curbed. But speaking from that, in that sense, does that would I say give us the feeling that he doesn't have full control, or what do you think?
Well, I think at this point the security team, actually, including the Security Council, which includes all governors and past presidents, needs to be sitting almost on a daily level, because this is a warning. Obviously, it's a warning signal from the security head that there's an issue, there's a problem. If the people
almost like a cry for help.
Yes, if the people in the front lines are falling behind their level of commitment, then there's an issue. Now, it doesn't go into where that issue is coming from. Now, we also know that from history, even from the last administration, 2 administrations ago, there were issues of mutiny and security breakdown based on the fact that soldiers then were crying out, of which we saw a few on the social media, that they were not being catered for. Both in terms of ammunition, both in terms of welfare, both in terms of their families. And you see, there's a whole trail that needs to be addressed. He did state further on that professionalism was not enough, that there were those who were doing their jobs, that dedication, willingness, passion, commitment was necessary, and that promotion will only be on professional terms and nothing more. But I think this is a signal and a cry for help that we need to all sit down and look at, because we are soldiers at the end of the day. For those who risk their lives and put their lives in harm's way, then everything needs to be done to ensure that they can patriotically give their full commitment to the job.
Thank you, Devoe, for that. Let's move very quickly to this next story from the Guardian newspaper, Gbolahan. Our governor, Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, yesterday dismissed claims that he promised during the election campaigns to decongest the roads within the first 60 days in office. I remember very clearly the headline as carried on major newspapers, before and even after he was elected or appointed elected governor of Lagos State, that seemed to indicate clearly that he said within 60 days he was going to solve the problem, but he said no. He retracted the statement while he was addressing. He initially made a statement at the Lagos Business School while he was addressing some MBA students there, but then now
his
he
old
said
colleagues
that this is a review that he indicated. He said he was going to review it, not solve the problem. But your thoughts on this, especially the perceptions and how this new statement now might leave a lot of people with false
Sir,
hope.
this is when you play Michael Jackson moonwalk.
Yes, backtrack it.
Yeah.
Well, don't you just love our politicians? This is not the first time that you'll be hearing something of this nature. 1 minute you make a lot of promises. We've heard similar when our president also made several promises, and the APC government also made several promises in 2015, only for them to
Moonwalk.
to have power or to win the election, and then we start hearing a different story, and all of a sudden the manifestos suddenly disappears.
But you know that promises are the easiest thing to break. Do you think in some sense, and this is me playing devil's advocate, please don't come at me on that, but do you think in some sense that this is just the way, one of the major expressions of maybe the media or the print media just going ahead of themselves in printing very interesting headlines, so that we can get excited?
That's a very interesting angle that you put it. Now, when you say that maybe this is not exactly the fault of the governor for coming up with such sensationalization, that it's the fault of the media, the question I would then ask is, why is the timing of this retraction coming at this present time? I mean, the governor was not in planet Pluto when all of this was in the media. Then he could have come out and denounced it and said, look, this is not what I said.
He's been very busy signing executive orders.
So you're telling me that he was busier then than he is actually busy now? No, that's not the case. I mean, Nigerians are actually tired of such backtracking and promises made by politicians. The question that you would want to answer is, what exactly would be of utmost importance in Lagos State at this present moment, if not the Apapa road congestion? Of course, that will be at the forefront of most citizens, especially those who carry out businesses along that axis, people that also reside in that area. It's literally affected practically every form of business that you can imagine. Even the likes of Dangote are complaining about this. I mean, because the cost of doing business has gone up astronomically over the years. I mean, initially transporting from the port to several places used to cost maybe 120, 150,000 on average. Now we're talking more than that. And we're talking about 300,000, if not more now. So this is very important, and it's a bit of a shame to hear that the governor is now saying that it was meant to be a review after 60 days and that he didn't actually make such comments.
A quick question, Gbolahan. Do you think that it's because there are no consequences when politicians make promises and then go back on their promises, as it were, that they do this? I mean, it's only 21 21 days into office, and already we're seeing one of the major highlights of what he had spoken about with regards to dealing with traffic on our roads. He's saying he's not, he didn't quite say that, because in this same report, he says that at the end of June, Lagos-Badagry Expressway, the contractors will return to site. Should we wait until it happens in case he says he didn't actually say that?
Well,
but I do not see it as a solution that is realized by just rubbing a magic lamp. Even in the real sense, if you were to start work, do you see it as something that can be completed in 60 days?
I mean, it might not be completed in 60 days, but what you would expect to see is that at least after 60 days, you highlight the progress that you've made. I mean, Nigerians are interested. Nigerians know that a lot of problems cannot be solved overnight, but what they want to see is action being taken, and they want to see progress. Once we can see progress, we're very realistic people. We would understand.
I'll remind us this. He says, according to him in this report, the construction or reconstruction of Oshodi Apapa Road has commenced, but he acknowledged in the same vein that it was yet to attain the level where it can be noticed, adding that the evacuation of tankers causing congestion on the roads has actually begun.
Okay, all right, we'll keep watching, but let's take comments. Shala says, I don't think this is about soldiers' pay alone. So going back to our first story, what about benefits for their family? What about structures, rotating officers so they can see their family from time to time? And then we have another one here. Why didn't this is Tosin from Ikoyi. Why didn't the government retract the statements then and then when the media pinned it to his name? I beg. He has seen that the KPI will work against him, and he has quickly come out to say the KPI is to review. And then we have this one here from Austin, from Autu.
He says politicians will always be politicians. I'm not surprised, because after a week, the same governor says he has lost weight. I do not think he's serious. Austin.
All right. Okay.
Livy from First Accent in this one. Livy says, for goodness sake, Mr. Sanwo-Olu, please do not begin like this.
Yes, and Wale says, this is a sign of battle fatigue. Going back to the first story, rotation should be every 6 to 9 months. What do you expect when someone has been on battlefront for 2 to 3 years without rotation? This is what you get. Some of them are already down with post-traumatic syndrome.
That's the soldiers.
Yes.
Yes, that's soldiers.
So since Apapa issue is a major problem, let's stick with it in our next analysis, Devoe. From the Punch newspaper, I have this headline: Federal Ministry stopped us from fixing Apapa Road. This is coming from the Nigerian Ports Authority. Blame game, or is there more to be considered?
There's more. I think now the other story, we should root for him. This is his 1-point agenda, clearing the gridlock in 60 days. Now, many people are still having sentiments because of the what I call it, the dangers and hazards and the various drama that's taking place in clearing the road, including recently where a container fell on 3 cars that were coming in. So many have been blaming NPA and saying that they should have fixed the road by now. But the NPA came out through the general manager, corporate and strategic communications, Jato Adams, and he indicated that the NPA actually before now was willing to have fixed it. That they wrote to the ministry several times, but the ministry asked them not to. And eventually, I think what was put together was a PPP that included the NPA, Dangote, and some other. That's the Wharf Road.
And by PPP, you mean public-private partnership?
Yes, public-private partnership, where they all put hands together to be able to fix it. Now, also, some other experts did mention, and which is what we should know, that it is illegal to maintain any road in Nigeria. Roads are maintained by the federal, state, and local government. Permission must be sought. They're the ones that license.
But you recall the concessions the federal government gave to private companies.
Yes,
and that tax waiver.
Yes, that was the tax waiver, and that was the first one. And I think this should be encouraged and promoted.
Yes.
So in an instance whereby practically all state governments open up opportunities for private sector individuals or companies to come in roads where you believe you have the capacity to help out, then some incentives will be given along the way. However, like I said, this is Sanwo-Olu's 1-point agenda, Apapa gridlock clearance. We should root for him. How many days are we in? This is 3 weeks in. Sanwo-Olu, you can do it. 60 days, you can do it. Okay. I will take my review on this 60 days when the 3 months comes. But we should keep rooting for him. Sanwo-Olu, don't backtrack. Yes. The people are with you. If you need intelligence, we're all here.
Yes.
Ayo, Val, we're all here to help him out with thinking through solutions to resolving the Apapa crisis.
There's a Twitter post that we got here, Twitter comments that said that, well, his media aides actually came back, denied the publication within 24 hours. This was from Yomi. But we know that it's very important for us as citizens to hold on to our power of holding them accountable.
Yes, yes, and that's why I like this statement here. I think was a comment earlier on about the fact that at the end of the day, it goes back to the electorate. We are the ones who hold them to account. So when they make promises to get votes, so Ade from Lagos says politicians will be politicians. In the US, Obama promised to close down the detention center, Guantanamo Bay. Trump also promised to build the Mexico Wall. The consequence is in the hand of the electorate. So they will overpromise to buy our votes and underdeliver. Sadly, very true.
I like that, Devoe. Let's use the same enthusiasm to apply to share our thoughts on this story. From Thisday newspaper, the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority (NCAA) has said that it will commence the demolition of telecommunication masts of network providers and financial institutions in different locations across the country. They said the reason why they are going into this is because of their failure to comply with the aviation heights clearance regulation. Please take us through the story, especially highlighting the ultimatum, the timeline to achieving this.
Well, it's actually past due. NCAA, that's the regulatory body for aviation, Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. They said they will commence demolition, meaning based on the failure of some financial institutions and mobile networks to remove the mast, the network masts that have contravened with they refer to it as aviation high clearance, AVH regulation. Now, what they've said that they had given them a notification way back in April. They gave them 30 days to be able to remove this, which terminates it sometime in May. But since this hasn't been done, they're left with no choice than to take action. Now, they spoke about some GSM providers, as well as many banks, I think about 8 of them.
When
that
you
had
GSM, you mean telcos, right?
Yes, telcos. Yes, telcos. Those are the major telco operators.
Okay.
Then about 8 banks. This is totaling about 8,805 masts. Now, I know many of these providers will be fighting back one way or the other, and what the NCAA has said that some of these masts and structures get in the way of flight clearance or the flight path, which affect and endanger navigation, and obviously would lead to an air crash. Now, one of the issues in this matter is that did it have to get to this point? Did some of these operators or private sector institutions not know of this regulation? And even after the notification, they've not removed them. It is an ongoing debate, especially in the telco world, as to positioning of mast and all of that, and the different technologies and infrastructure required to ensure that you have a balance between air safety and telecom infrastructure. But we wait to see the first culprits of NCAA's action. And I know most times when regulatory bodies take action, people begin to raise arms. Why? But I think we need to obey laws, and if there's a grievance or a difference, there needs to be equitable legal means of addressing this before we get to a point of enforcement.
And also, what I would like to see added to that, the list of corporates, that will face these sanctions, or rather, get under the weight of NCAA, is also see, like I opined earlier, consequences meted down on those who gave approvals for the indiscriminate erection of these masts in the first place.
No, they were not approved. The building itself across those heights was a contravention. So, and even I think the grace period was the 30 days they gave them. So we wait to see how this will take place and who will be the first culprit of the demolition.
Thank you, Devoe.
Thank you very much, Devoe. Let's go to you, Gbolahan, for the next story. Federal government unleashes ICPC to probe constituency project. So the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission are set to commence full-scale investigation of various constituency projects claimed to have been executed by National Assembly members nationwide. This looks like very welcome development, as we haven't really seen probing of what they get allocated funds for constituency projects, but we just don't know to what extent that is carried out. Can you please just shed more light on this story?
Well,
Shed more light.
I think this is coming off the back of just a week ago when the president did actually say that they're looking at ways of improving their anti-corruption fight and then strengthening a lot of institutions that are also involved in the fight against corruption. ICPC, that is the Independent Corrupt Practice Commission, is one of those agencies that the government is looking at strengthening. And of course, we know one of the mantras of President Buhari's administration, both on his first and second term, is the fight against corruption. So right now, at the moment, we're talking about ICPC now starting up with investigating a lot of all the constituency project. The constituency project, of course, we know it's been quite a lot of conspiracies about the constituency project. Is being shrouded with a lot of secrecy, just as the National Assembly is also shrouded in a lot of secrecy when it comes to the expenditures for such project. I mean, so many times you would see on national TV or on social media where we would have senators and the House of Representatives commissioning projects such as drainage, toilets, and very trivial projects that you would imagine ought not to be commissioned in this present age when we're talking about 2019. So it's a good move by the government to start the investigation. They're talking about running a pilot project, and the pilot project is looking at 12 states, and these 12 states will be picked from the 6 geopolitical zones. Part of those states are Kogi, Benue, Sokoto, Kano, Lagos, and Osun State is one of those states, and several other states that they'll be looking at. What we will say is that we await the outcome of this investigation. We look forward to it. I mean, the citizens ought to get a lot more from what the government is doing in terms of funding constituency projects in their areas. And it's also the responsibilities of the citizens also to monitor these projects and to monitor how these constituency projects are carried out by their senators and the House of Representative members.
There should be some form of monitoring and evaluation, noting that about 100 billion naira is allocated annually to constituency projects for different zones in Nigeria, and some representatives have been quoted as saying that they can do what they want to their constituency projects. You know how many people are sponsored to Jerusalem and the likes.
I mean, it's almost like the security vote.
Absolutely.
Emma is reacting to the security situation, especially the plight to the soldiers, by his message on WhatsApp. It says, are they properly equipped, motivated, their welfare given top priority? They can't keep putting their lives in harm's way, and those who should reciprocate their patriotism are not doing the needful. Then Seth, be human being, a cool cry for help.
All right, let's go on to what the United Kingdom is saying to their citizens. They have warned against travel to 21 states in Nigeria. This report was taken from the Guardian newspaper. So the Foreign and Commonwealth Office of the United Kingdom has cautioned British nationals against traveling to 21 states in Nigeria. Devoe, please tell us some of these 21 states, what their reasons are and how we're taking it.
I think the media is reacting to one federal government official last week that said that insecurity in Nigeria was reducing. And I really feel that there's a media reaction to that statement. Because
the IG of police, actually, we had the story yesterday, him stating that there was a decline in insecurity in
the
Nigeria.
IG of police.
Yes. And he named several states.
Because I know there was someone else that said it last week, and I'm wondering, is that supposed to be propaganda to keep us mute? Because this article breaks down not just where the UK embassy, that's the British Commonwealth Office, raised a travel alert on its own nationals within 21 states, covering the Northeast, the North Central, Northwest, and then South states. Now they refer to it as there were various terrorist attacks that have been taking place and likely to be carried out in some of these parts. So there was no distinction here between banditry, kidnapping, or even the insurgents or the herdsmen. Now, it cut across in various areas. Now, what's particular about the story is where the corpers, many of the corpers have expressed fears and apprehension as to resuming in their point of their camps because of the wave of violence that have been taking place, especially those within the northeastern parts. And the camps were meant to resume yesterday, of which they'll be seeing many absentees. It breaks down whereby some attacks in Jalingo women were wearing black dresses protesting the wave of violence against them and their children. And basically, it just centers around all the various insecurity cases that have been happening. I cannot believe that the security forces, that the best position that they can put is to claim that it has been going down. If Zamfara is not safe, then we are not safe in Lagos. If Borno is not safe, you have heard the Army General and how 4 attacks on 4 Army bases, not even on the soft targets, on Army bases in 1 week, then we are not safe. And I think all Nigerians need to wake up to this scenario and take action on it, because it's not the case whereby, oh, as long as it's taking place somewhere 1,000 miles from my house, I'm fine, my children are cool. If it's taking place sporadically, consistently, frequently, the way it's happening, then we are not safe. And the alert should extend to Lagos State. Let's not add the issue of the social cultural bodies that have taken up a position on it. There needs to be a federal government position. This should be the one-point agenda of the federal government.
Just to mention, because while you're saying we're not safe, it's important to also know that the president has called in service chiefs, heads of governors of some states to discuss the security situation.
No, no more discussions.
All right, so
we might need a change in plan.
Just to react to what you're saying, just to let people know what is being done. So to say that this is what is, whether it's sufficient or not, but this is what is being done. All right, let's move on to our next story. INEC, we only experimented with server in 2018, says Thisday newspaper. So Gbolahan, we had reports after following the tribunal with article
with
that
PDP,
saying
that they have
that
the results.
they didn't even have servers. Well, they said they had over 1 billion naira allocated in the budget to servers for the last election, and people are questioning, so where did this money go to? But INEC is saying that, well, they only experimented with servers in 2018, but they didn't use during 2019 elections. Please quickly take us through the story.
Well, this is part of our, I don't know what to call it in Nigeria, where the statements are made and the next minute it's retracted. INEC is now coming up to say that in 2019 general election, they didn't actually use the servers, and that what actually transpired was that in 2018, they only experimented with the use of electronic transmission and servers in 2018. In some elections that took place in 2018 in Anambra, Sokoto, and Osun State. And that going forward in the 2019 election, they didn't actually use the electronic transmissions and the back-end servers for result collation in the general elections in 2019. And they gave the reasons why they didn't use the transmission and the servers either. And the reasons given were that the budget wasn't released on time in 2009 for the 2019 elections, and secondly, there were, of course, the president didn't actually sign the Electoral Act reform that was done in the Electoral Reform Act that was done in 2019, simply because the timing wasn't right, and he was saying it would cause a lot of confusion if he had signed that into act. Also, and there was a budget delay. So these were the reasons given for INEC not using the servers. I mean, we've heard conflicting accounts and reports several. Initially, INEC said they didn't actually have a server. Now they're now saying that they did have a server, but they experimented with the server, but they never used it for the 2019 election.
All right, thank you very much. Just the big question again, 1.47 billion naira allocated. Where's the money? All right.
Quick messages here. We are out of time. Chika Agina from Marina says, it's most unfortunate and devastating to hear that Sanwo-Olu, our governor, has come out to retract his statements on decongesting Apapa within the first 60 days. Like I said on the 29th of May on this platform, when you, Valentine, and Ayo and Devoe did a prospect of Sanwo-Olu, 4 years, I remember saying that 60 days on the Apapa Ultimatum will determine how well he, Sanwo-Olu, will fare in the next 4 years. Do you think, Chika, that it might be too early to judge? Emeka from Ejibo says, so long as the masts are not along the flight path of the airport, then it wouldn't hold. But there ought to have been a synergy between agencies like La Simra and NCAA. Do you now expect the telcos to use La Simra to court or sue La Simra to court for damages in Lagos if their masts are demolished? Emeka, thank you. Uboma Chideze says,
This ICPC probe, I personally think is Saraki they are hunting to probe.
Wow. This one is from
Another angle.
these are the names of your messages, but we thank our analysts for coming in this morning. Unfortunately, we couldn't touch on the last story. The headline from the Vanguard reads: "Corruption in customs officers are useless. Prefers personal to official duty." That's the customs boss speaking. Another boss that's blaming the staff. But we do have to round up. Special thanks to Gbolahan, Mr. G Quest on Twitter. Find him up there so we can continue the conversation. Also, Devoe is Devoe Okorie on Twitter. Ayo and myself, Valentine, will be here to talk sports next on Smooth 98.1. Good morning.